And welcome to the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show, where we bring enlightened entrepreneurs, coaches, and influencers together to discuss cutting-edge topics for the world of relationships, culture, business, and spirituality. Here's your host, Max Anjanetta Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Max Anjanetta Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. I am so excited to be here today with my guests. And you know what we always say on the Courage to Confidence show? If you have a little bit of courage, right? Just a little bit, and you hire a good coach like one of us, you're going to very quickly get the results that you're looking for, because everybody gets to have a great mentor, right? Now, you know I'm your weather girl, and it is hot as hell here in Florida. We had a record 113 yesterday. Can't stay outside for very long. We're under a lot of restrictions. But I'm going to go around the horn here, introduce our guests, and they're going to tell us where they're from and what the weather's like where you are. Lorayne, introduce yourself and tell us where you are in the world and what the weather's like.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Lorayne, and I am in the Carolinas. So I say both because I'm a suburb of Charlotte. So I'm in North Carolina and South Carolina a lot every day. And it's hot here. It's a little less humid, but it's still hot.
I bet so. I'm looking forward to talking to you about how you're going to help women find their God-given purpose. Jodie, tell us where you are in the world and what the weather's like where you are.
Well, I'm in the UK, down on the south coast, and I think in Fahrenheit, I think we discovered it's about 63, which it's okay. It's not that. We think summer's disappeared. I think it came and gone in about a week. So, yeah, not great.
And we're going to learn how you're helping women establish their beauty businesses and make them grow. I'm going to ask you if you know a lady in just a minute. And then there's Robert Glazer. Robert, where are you chiming in from?
I am outside of Boston, and I think the weather's a little symbolic of the world today. Yesterday, at 1 o'clock, we had a flash flood, about 3 inches of rain in an hour. The streets were all flooded, and then it was sunny 2 hours later. So now it's sunny and 80 degrees outside. So it's been a little bit of everything.
Oh, my goodness. And I got a couple of questions I'm going to ask you, Robert, but one of them is about the fact that you're a #1 Wall Street bestselling author. And so I'm curious. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
I'm curious. What's going to make this show a win for you today?
For me, it's always just interesting conversation with interesting people. So that's always a win for me.
Well, take just about 30 seconds or so and let everybody know what you're up to in the world and what you do.
I've started a couple companies. One of those is a company called Acceleration Partners that I'm kind of founder or chairman of the board of. It's a 300-person global company, and we focus on helping companies build affiliate and influencer programs around the world. And we've been doing that for different partner programs for about 15 years right now. Along the way, we were growing our company fully virtually, doing some things that were different. I started doing some writing about things that we were doing differently and started sending a note to my team every Friday. People started to share that note around kind of just getting better, improving. Outside the company, ended up renaming it Friday Forward. A couple years later, there are 100,000 people in 80 countries reading that, and I started to turn some of those notes and concepts into a few of my books.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Miss Lorayne, tell everybody what you're up to in the world, and I'm interested in what's the one thing that you have that helps women really discover their God-given purpose, because sometimes I don't think I get to hear from God.
The one thing, oh my goodness. Well, what I'm up to is I'm really focusing on speaking and traveling around and speaking and coaching, hopefully, if that falls into place. And how I really hone in on that is working with my clients and really finding their limiting beliefs, finding what's holding them up, their obstacles, what's blocking them, and clearing that, and helping them get in alignment, basically, making sure that they're taking care of themselves mentally and physically. So this way here that there's no block. They're having that alone time, that quiet time with their creator, so that they can hear and so that they can figure out what it is that excites them and propels them to their purpose.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. And then there's Miss Jodie. She's been my stalker for the last few weeks. She's going to tell us a little bit about what she's doing in the world of beauty and business. And I'm going to ask you, do you know who Susie Carter is?
No, I don't. No.
Yeah.
Sounds like I should do.
Yeah, you might want to check her out. We'll talk. Go ahead and tell everybody what you're up to.
Excellent. Okay, so I've been in the beauty industry for sort of almost 25 years now as a beauty therapist. And I'm getting to the point where I kind of need to move on in my career because my hands aren't really working so well now. And I've really loved the idea of sort of coaching people. And the beauty industry is so fast paced and it's so hard to keep up with absolutely everything. So my goal is to help people that are just starting out in the industry building that strong foundation for their business. And the one thing that's super important to me is making sure that that business is built in alignment with them personally and around their values. Because so many people go out there in business thinking, right, I'm going to go and do it. I need to get all the mechanics done, and they don't actually think about themselves and how they're building this business around them to be able to fit into their lives. And then a couple of years down the line, they kind of falter a little bit and think, well, what's missing? What's missing is they've kind of lost themselves. So I want them to be able to build that business around them so it feels good.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm going to go to Robert because from what I'm understanding, he has a bit more business experience than us other three ladies. We're pretty young in our careers. And I would just like to hear one or two things that you think that we could focus on that were effective for you in helping you grow your businesses to as large as you did.
I think having a clear vision and a clear purpose, one of the most valuable things that we did, a lot of businesses have strategic plans or things that they talk about, but we held on to something that a friend of mine, a coach that we had named Cam Harold, and who worked with Brian Scudamore, who's the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, who you see on TV and crazy, and Brian's grown this business. So we did this thing called a vivid vision. So we would write kind of a future document every 3 years of, hey, it's January 1st, 2025. This is what the business is doing. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what the people are doing. And then we would build our strategic plan kind of by reverse engineering that and figuring out how we were going to make that happen. And that's really become kind of a North Star orientation for us. And I think it's great to have vision, and you got to have that, right? But then you got to just having it doesn't make it happen. I've got my kind of board with the goals and stuff. Then you got to kind of map it out and make it happen. So that's been an important process with us. I really believe in alignment, where if you kind of pick the high level things and then work to align what you're doing every day, and then those crazy visions kind of turn into things that you're getting accomplished.
Well, I've heard all three of you say alignment. So I want to hear all of your thoughts on manifestation. Jodie, take it away.
Oh, I love a bit of manifestation. Can't say the word manifestation. I started my journey reading the book The Secret. I don't know if you guys have read that one. I think a lot of people have, and that's what really kind of opened my eyes to what it is. So I absolutely do try to make sure I've got something in my day every day that's going to help me bring more money into my business, bring more alignment in for my clients, bring more joy. It's a hard one when you put on the hot spot.
You put on the hot spot. Well, one of the reasons I'm asking this question, and I do want to hear from Lorayne and Robert, is that I was familiar with the name Bob Proctor. I had never studied his books or studied his stuff. And in the last 3 or 4 months, all these Bob Proctor people are popping up in my world. As a matter of fact, I sat on a Zoom earlier today with Dave Conway, who's his number 2 salesperson or something. And he was really close to him. So that's what I'm asking, is to really get a feel for what other people think about manifestation. So tell us what you think, Lorayne.
That is such a hot topic right now. And it's such... It can be touchy, right? For many different reasons. So my personal belief, do I believe in it? Yes. Do I practice it to an extent, very carefully? Because me being a person of faith, and I'm a Christian, and so I would not say I'm religious. I definitely would not say I am religious. Spiritual, yes, absolutely. I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So when we talk about manifestation, for me personally, I want to make sure that what I am doing is in alignment with me, my goals, my values, and with God. Because ultimately, I want God's will. And where manifestation comes into a tricky field, if I could say, is you absolutely have the power to manifest things. But as a Christian and a believer in Christ, I want to make sure that I am living in alignment for what God wants for me, because what I want for me can go a very different way than for what God's plan is for me. Can it happen? Can I make it happen? Absolutely. But would it be the right path for me? No. So when it comes to manifesting, I absolutely have those things, thoughts, goals, dreams in my head, and I work towards them. And your brain is so powerful too. I fully believe in your reticular activating system. So when you start focusing on those things, you see them, they come to life, right? But the key here with me personally and my beliefs, I am always including God in this. And I'm always like, if this is your will, help me see this, or bring the right people into my life that are going to make this happen and help this go this way. This is what I want. If this is your will. So if that kind of makes sense, that's how I guess you would quote unquote manifest, is I ask my Savior to come along for the ride for this, because ultimately, like I said, I want to make sure I'm living his will, not my will, because a huge part of it, what I believe is, if it's not his will and I force it to happen, I manifest the thing that I want, I'm going to have to work really hard to keep it. I'm going to have to work really hard to make it happen. Whereas if it's God's will, my belief is I won't. I mean, yes, I'll have to pursue it. You can't drive a parked car, but I'm not going to have to work to keep it, because it's God's will and he's going to allow that blessing to come abundantly.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. We'll talk some more about that. Robert, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, look, I think big fan of Think and Grow Rich. Read that book. I think, when we fill sort of and focus our energy, I think we bring certain things into our life. I'm sort of 50-50 on this, to the pragmatist out there. I think there's some things that my family and we kind of build these boards every year and we put goals, and there's some stuff I could show you that's crazy that has kind of come true. And I think there's some focus on energy. Some of it I think is pragmatic, what I would call like Black Jetta syndrome. You know how when we buy a car, we then see that car everywhere, right? So I think by a little what Lorayne said, just by focusing on something or sort of putting it in your kind of site, you think about it more, you might take a step, you might do something to that. There's a story I share in our company, because we kind of focus people on kind of getting their goals and visualizing them. And so someone on our team really wanted to get back in photography, right? And so she took a picture of photography or class and she put it up on kind of a goal sheet in her office, and her husband walked in there 2 weeks before Mother's Day and was like, oh, perfect. Now I know what to get her for Mother's Day. I'll get her a camera and a thing. So that's just a very pragmatic example of, when you kind of put it out there or focus on it, like it brings something to you. Like I don't think that's manifestation in the traditional sense, but again, sometimes just having that in our vision constantly makes us think about it, makes us take a first step, do something. As I said, anytime you buy a car, think about it. You suddenly see that car everywhere, but that car doesn't exist more than it did the week before.
Exactly. And I love how you're using the word pragmatic, because I don't think I would have known any of this woo-woo stuff if COVID hadn't hit. Because, listen, I didn't choose to become an entrepreneur. To your point, Lorayne, this was a whole God thing. He closed every other door. I was known as the reluctant entrepreneur. I think Jodie's probably heard me say that before on one of these shows. But summer before last, 2 years ago, I was a group of 4 coaches. We were teaching a Quantum Leap coaching certification program. And this one guy on there, his name is Marco. And he's like, seriously, woo-woo. I mean, just incredible. And so she asked some question and Marco explains it and everything. And apparently I'm just sitting there looking at him and she goes, and Carol, what are your thoughts? And I told her and she goes, that's it. Carol's pragmatic, Marco's woo-woo. You get the best of both worlds. So yeah, that is quite fascinating. I think we got a little message here. I don't know if everybody can hear the audio. It says under settings an option called echo cancellation. I don't know if it's me or somebody else, but anyway, we'll continue with the conversation. Let's take that track, if you will. Obviously, to me, Robert really wanted to start his business, and he's been doing it a long time. What about you other two ladies? Was this something you always wanted to do? It's something you fell into?
Totally fell into it. I actually have a background in medicine. I was in the medical field for 15, 20 years. I thought it was my lane. I thought it was my passion. I absolutely loved it. And then COVID happened and everything changed. It was no longer in alignment with my values. And the reason why I got into it clearly became not what it was anymore. So I had to make that decision of stepping away from it. And I guess you can say I fell into coaching. I was always speaking and encouraging others. I mean, my whole entire life I have been, but I guess it was still during COVID. California COVID was a lot longer than any other COVID, I feel like. But when I moved over to the Carolina side, I went to a John Maxwell conference and absolutely fell in love with speaking and coaching. And that's where my journey started.
Oh, fantastic. How about you, Jodie?
I've always had a goal to do something. I didn't know if it would be more the counselling route or whether it would be more sort of the coaching kind of thing. And it was for me, it was more of a long-term goal because I absolutely adore doing all the beauty. I love doing that. And again, you get to chat to your clients every day and you've still got that bond and you kind of are coaching anyway, just in general conversation with them. But again, COVID hit and obviously my industry got completely shut down for, again, one of the longest times next to kind of restaurants and things. And I'm not one to sit still. And so I was like, I've got all this free time. Why not get my coaching qualification? So, yeah, so it should have taken 18 months and I managed to do it in 9 months because I had so much time on my hands. So, yeah, so I've managed to sort of just start getting that up and running and just try to find my feet because, again, coaching is quite a big world out there. And I wasn't quite sure which niche I was going to go for to start with. So I was just sort of coaching a bit ad hoc and finding out sort of what I enjoyed, really. And if you want to call it fate, I suppose the beauty just shouted the loudest because obviously it's what I'd done for all these years anyway. And again, it was kind of my way of being able to eventually step out of the physical side of it, but still get to stay part of the beauty world. So, because I do really love that.
I'm gonna encourage you to look up Susie Carter. Write her name down.
Susie Carter.
She has a phenomenal story. How she had a beauty salon, and she only had 2 people working in it, and she made $250,000 that year. Is unheard of to only have 2 people in your salon. And she's very good at systems. And I'm just going to give you a brief part of her story. And she took that and put her systems together and sold it to a company for millions and millions of dollars. So I'm doing that to encourage you. You never know what you might could do. She's like Robert. Absolutely. She has a New York Times bestseller. It's The Prophet something, I don't remember. But you made a statement, you said a word, and it was funny because it was the next question in my mind. Did I manifest that? I don't know. You talked about qualifications, right? In the United States, you don't have to have a certification to be qualified to coach. Most international countries, you must have a certification. I would just like some open discussion on what y'all's thoughts are about that. Anybody can jump in. Robert, I'm sorry. You're on mute.
I was doing that to try to protect. My wife and I were talking about this last night. You know, we see a lot of people become life coaches and stuff. And sometimes you're like, that person should not be giving advice to other people about their life. So I think standards are helpful. I think there are a lot of certificates and stuff you can print out online, versus knowing that someone has practiced something. But to me, I want to know that someone's own behavior is congruous and their actions are congruous, or the things that they're talking about. Again, it's not always in sports. It's not always the best athletes that become the best coaches. I think, I've seen similarly in business, some people might have really good systems and you don't know what happened, but there's also some other people that were really not good at what they did or failed or were dishonest, and then kind of pop up otherwhere and are coaching other people. And so I'm not sure the right answer on certification, but like I said, I think it'd be helpful to have some more standards and to know kind of what training people have, but also like what have their actions been, and how have they lived their life, and how have they lived these principles. It's super easy to tell people that stuff, but are you actually living up to that? So I think across a lot of industries, this has gotten a little murky.
I agree with you. And I like what you said, because my little tag here says I'm the queen of reframe. I teach and train on empowering questions, how to get the answers that you really want. And I will ask myself empowering questions every day as well to stay in my leadership. And like one of my questions is, well, what one thing have I gotten my clients to do successfully that I'm not doing, that if I were to do it would change blah, blah, blah for me? And I'll ask those questions, because with empowering questions, though, you're not supposed to sit around and try to figure out the answer, right? And the caveat is you cannot be attached to the outcome. And that's the most difficult thing for most people. And I laugh. I don't know if Jodie's heard me say this, but my next book is going to be called "You Can't Read the Label When You're Inside the Jar." Right? And we're all in a jar.
Wait for it.
We're all in a jar. And what empowering questions do is they bring awarenesses into your jar that you didn't have before. And that's why you're not supposed to sit around and try to figure them out, because you're stuck in your jar, just like the rest of us. How about you, Lorayne?
I agree with Robert. In this day and age, it's kind of like everyone can be anything, right? And we've always told our kids that you can be anything you want. But where's the credibility? And, unfortunately, in every industry, there's going to be a level of people with lack of integrity, and that's just going to be everywhere. That's just the nature of the beast, right? But I absolutely agree. In something so open and broad with entrepreneurship and coaching and speaking, I think there needs to be a level of education somehow. I mean, where did you go? What did you do? I personally got certified through the John Maxwell Leadership Team. I mean, it's a huge organization. And, my coach is Valerie Burton. She's a world-renowned executive coach. I think there's not just a black and white one and done, right? You can go anywhere. There's plenty of options. You can take it a step further. You can go to college for stuff like this. But I absolutely think for integrity purposes, if you're going to be doing something as life coaching and you're affecting people's lives, there needs to be some. I mean, doctors just don't go, "Hey, I'm going to be a doctor today." You know what I mean? And they're messing with people's lives as well. So, yeah, I think there needs to be some type of education.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
How about you, Jodie?
I think with the beauty industry, there's so many people that think they can do it from home, and they think, "Oh, we can get these kits on the market, from Amazon or wherever now, and I can go and do a gel set of nails, for example." And then they think, "Oh, well, I'll go and do it for my friends," and then things go wrong. And then it's people like me that have to fix those because they've gone to somebody who's not qualified. So when it comes to the coaching, to me, it totally gives me credibility to be able to say, I went to this academy to get my qualification, that, you can go and follow this school up and you can find out exactly what type of qualification I've got and how I got it. And I just think that without it, I mean, in the UK, anybody can be a life coach. To be honest, it is, again, it's one of those things. If you want to say tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and be a life coach, you can do. But you can't get insurance without qualifications over here. So for me personally, that's really important, because again, it shows my credibility and it shows that I'm on the right path, and that when I'm trying to teach my students, I teach them the same things. I always want them to continuously learn. I want them to get those qualifications, but I want them to get the insurance. I want them to show that level of professionalism. Sorry.
No, there's a lot to be said for not only being qualified, right, but being certified, which is what everybody's saying. So we're coming into the last few minutes of the show, and what we're going to do is go around the horn. And I'm going to start with Lorayne. You're going to tell us how people can find you, who your ideal client is, and then if you were going to leave us with one thought, what would it be?
Ooh, okay. So how you can find me on my website, which is theboldbeginnings.com. You can email me, Lorayne@theboldbeginnings.com. You can find me on Instagram, and that's just my name, Lorayne_Michaels. I frequent mostly on Instagram, so if you want to my antics, my stories can be fun. And what was the other one? I remember the last one. It's what can I leave you with? But where can you find me?
And real quickly, who's your ideal client?
Ideal client. Okay, so for speaking purposes, I would love to speak to a group. It could be men or women. My focus and passion is women between the ages of 25 and 55 who are working, wanting to quit, really struggling with getting over some hurdles in their life, and they're wanting to level up. They know they're made for more, but they just don't know what to do. That's my ideal client.
Awesome. And so what one thought? Give us
one thought to leave you with. You were divinely created for a divine purpose. There's no mistake in you, and there's a reason why you're here.
Awesome. Thank you. Robert.
So all of my information's at robertglazer.com, including kind of books and speaking in the Friday Forward if people are interested in joining. Ideal client, sort of depends. For some of the speaking and stuff I do, I think it's organizations or people looking to build capacity either individually in a leadership capacity in their team. I think leaving people with one thought, we talk a lot about kind of values in life. If I walk into a party and I ask them, okay, well, what are your values? 98 out of 100 really can't answer that clearly. And so I think, and I have some stuff on my site, really, really being able to articulate your core values and what you value, to me, is a lot of foundation of personal and business leadership.
Absolutely, because if you don't know what you take a stand for, then you're not sure what you're taking a stand against either, right? Yeah, and
these days particularly, I think I'm seeing like our tribal nature and people kind of giving up their values because they're afraid of disagreeing with the group. To me, it was always supposed to be the other way around. You had these values, and that's how you chose the groups that you wanted to be associated with. So it just feels very upside down to me today, where if you value something, then that's kind of a not negotiable in my book.
I was raised like you were. Jodie, tell us where they can find you and your ideal client.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, any of those places, on my website under Jodie Mykaels Coaching. My ideal client is women who want to either start a beauty business and want to learn how to build a strong foundation to enable them to build a strong, successful business, or salon owners that are ready to level up. So if they've already been in business for a while and they've hit that plateau and they want to go to the next step, then I'm your gal. And very similar to Robert, my total ethos here is whatever you do, just make sure it aligns with your values and that you are truly happy with the choices that you're making.
Awesome. I have had a blast here with you guys today. If y'all all want to come back, we can do it again. I don't know about the registration process or how long that would take, but it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for coming. My last thought that I'm going to leave before we close the show out is trust the process and just take the next step. That's all we got to do. Take the next step, trust in the process. Until next week, blessings to everybody. Go and make it a great week. Take care.
The Intuitive Entrepreneur Show is hosted by Max and Janetta Jones and is brought to you by Life Coaching Today magazine, empowering your health, business, community, and life. This has been a production of True Awesome Life Productions, who asked, what does your true awesome life look like? Start that journey today at trueawesomelife.com. For more information on this or past episodes, go to the